First of all, what's up? How was everybody's April? Mine was bananas. I was really busy this month. I still managed to get some reading done. So this is going to be my March and April wrap-ups. And then we'll talk about my May TBR at the end of the video. At the beginning of March, as I told you guys, I was going to read Shiny Broken Pieces. This is the second book in the Tiny Pretty Things duology. This book's duology follows three main characters. They all attend the American Ballet Conservatory, and it is like a cross between Black Swan and Pretty Little Liars. There are a lot of crazy things that go on when they're at this school. I was raving about Tiny Pretty Things in February, and I just wanted to go ahead and finish up this duology, and of course I loved it. This was such a great finisher for this series because you really got to see these characters grow and develop in new ways. There was a lot of drama and things happening in the first book, and although those things were still present in this book, they weren't necessarily the central plot point, the central vocal point. A lot of this book was the characters really covering from things that happened in the first book or the things that they did in the first book and just trying to grow and change, and I really enjoyed all three characters. I give the second book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I will be having a full book review on this duology. I'll be looking for that. The second book that I read in the month of March was Zodiac. This is the first book in the Zodiac saga, and I was just in the mood for some sci-fi. This follows a main character who lives in this sci-fi world that is completely based off of the Zodiac galaxy, full of different houses / planets that represent different zodiac signs. And essentially whatever your zodiac sign is, like, that's your race. Like all of the Scorpios, they look a certain way, they have certain personality traits, and they focus on certain values on their world, and then it's like that for the other houses. It's so fascinating and intricate. The author did a great job of constructing this world. Since this is a 4-book series, you only get to see like 3 or 4 of the different houses in each book, and I loved and enjoyed that because it allows you to really build on these different worlds within the galaxy. There were a few things that didn't particularly bother me in the book, but I know will bother some other people, so I want to make sure to mention those. There is a huge love triangle in this story, so if you do not like love triangles and you're going to roll your eyes at love triangles and you just kind of want to skim through those parts, don't pick this series up. It doesn't have anything to do with the main conflict, but it is heavily talked about, and the main character is heavily influenced by this love triangle. Also, it does have special snowflake syndrome, so the main character is a special snowflake. Like I said, the plot line is very interesting to me. The villain is interesting. I loved the setting with all of the different zodiac houses. And on top of that, there is a lot of political intrigue in this story. So if you do enjoy those things, then I would suggest picking it up. But I will do a review really soon because a few of you have actually been requesting me to read and review this book. So that's coming up soon. Okay, so the first book that I read in April is Stolen Songbird by Danielle Jensen. I really wanted to focus on some books that I had been interested in but hadn't heard a ton about for the month of April, since the month of May is going to be so new released, second book in a series, wrap up of a series, etc. type crazy in May, that I just wanted to read some things that were under the radar, and Stolen Songbird for me was one of those things. I ended up really loving this book. I know Peruse Project said that she loved it, and there's also another really popular booktuber that enjoyed this one as well. I will leave a link down to that booktuber's review below because I cannot remember her name right now. This follows the main character. She is a singer. She has come of age, so she is going off to she's from a small town and she's going off to the capital to become a singer professionally, but on the way she gets kidnapped, taken under this mountain where there is secretly a whole kingdom of trolls living, and this all happens within the first and second chapter of the book. So the story really just develops and goes on from there. She is trying to figure out why was she taken, what role is it that they want her to play in this world, and you really get to see the story develop. I love this a lot because number one, the angst between The main character and her love interest is so good. I really like her love interest in this story. Also, I really enjoy the fantastical elements of this world. I felt like it was very unique for the setting to be basically in one particular place for the duration of the story. I didn't feel like I was getting bored and it didn't feel stagnant. And that's very hard for authors to do because sometimes it makes it feel like the plot is not moving, but there was still a lot of suspense and a lot of action in this book. I think this book did a great job of doing some character building and really introducing you to this world, letting you see a lot of the supporting characters, and there was a lot of layers to this story. It just felt well thought out. I really enjoyed this a lot. I would give this one a 4.25 stars. Next book that I read is Tell Me Three Things by Julie Buxom. I don't have a lot to say about this one. This is a contemporary novel that follows the main character who moves to Los Angeles after her mother passes away. Her dad meets a woman online who in one of his grief counseling groups, and then they fall in love and get married in like a short time period. So she has to move across the country, move to Los Angeles to live with her rich stepmom, and she's basically navigating the LA scene and going to high school in LA. I forgot the main point of the story is once she gets to LA, one of the students at her school starts sending her emails because they like her, but they don't want her to know who they are. So they're like, I'm gonna help you navigate this high school, but you can't know who I am. So of course she's trying to figure out who it is throughout the story. It just felt cliche. It didn't feel like there was really much uniqueness to the story. It wasn't like the reading of it wasn't enjoyable. It was just kind of like after I read it, it didn't feel new. Like it was kind of like, okay, seen it all, done it all. And I basically guessed all of the plot twists and plot points that were going to happen in the story. So this one was a dud for me. I give this one a 2.5 stars. The one thing that I did enjoy about this story is that the relationship between the daughter and the father and how they grieved differently and how it affected their relationship felt very real and very honest. So I did like how the author portrayed that. I know the author mentioned that the main character was going through the death of her mother at basically the same time that the author was in her life. So it was kind of like her reflecting back on like 20 years previously. I felt like it was done really well. If you are a fan of contemporaries and you just want like a quick read, then you can pick this one up. The next book that I picked up is Wandering Star. This is the second book in the Zodiac saga. After I was reading Zodiac in March, I just decided to continue on with the series in April. This book kind of just expands on the plot line that's happening in the first book, but you're also introduced to some new elements that affect the overall story arc. I really enjoyed this one as well. I would probably say that I had about the same enjoyment level as the first one. I like this one just a tad bit more, and that was only because in the second book they go to Sagittarius and I'm a Sagittarius, so I was really interested in to see what world the author cultivated for Sagittarius. This installment of the book definitely had a lot more of that political intrigue, and this really does touch on how to deal with defeat and continue on. I just really like to touch on that because you don't really get to see that a lot in YA. Everything's usually wrapped up in a nice bow or it's completely decimated, and this book was a good in between, and it kind of touched on some real things that you can relate to. 3.75 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read in the month of April is Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. I was so excited to get my hands on this contemporary. This is a new release. I think this came out like a month ago. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it came out in March, but this follows an Indian American deaf main character. She goes to a school that's specifically for the hearing impaired, but in the first chapter she gets caught doing graffiti on the wall. Someone has painted a slur about one of her friends on the wall, and she has done this beautiful graffiti over it. But then she gets caught and she gets expelled, so she has to go to a mainstream school. The main character has never been to a mainstream school before, so you really get to see basically the story of her navigating through being at a school that's not specifically for the hearing impaired. Her art plays a huge role in this. There's like artwork and everything throughout the book, but once the main character mainstreams and she starts to do her graffiti around the city, she notices that someone else is doing graffiti on her graffiti, so they're adding to her art. So then it becomes this mystery of who's doing this. I really loved this book because this is one of the first and only, I don't even think I've read another contemporary that doesn't have a romance in it. I really still enjoyed the story. It was still interesting. It still had great family relationships. It still had great friendships in there, and I just loved how there was more of an emphasis on her family life as well as her friendships. I would give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm tired, y'all. That was a lot of talking. As far as my May TBR, all of the books that I'm reading in May are going to be new releases. I have decided why not just go ahead and dedicate the month of May to new releases, because there are so many great ones coming out. I actually found an ARC the other day for a May release at a library book sale, but you guys will see that in my April book haul video. I have a pretty big announcement coming on this channel in the month of May, so stay tuned for that video. It'll be up before the month ends, and I also have something little fun that I'm doing with this channel as well. Turn on your notifications because there's a lot going on. What new releases are y'all looking forward to next month? Leave it all in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at theBookArcher. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!